Hello again and welcome to the What If podcast presented by Suicide Prevention Scotland. Each week we're having big, bold discussions about suicide. Our aim to bring something that can still feel like a bit of a taboo subject right into the open. Yes, it is okay to ask someone if you are worried about them, and doing so could save a life. So I'm Amy, and in the final episode of the series we're exploring the idea that can make us unique, and that can actually increase our risk of suicide. This could apply to LGBTQ plus people of faith, colour, people who are neurodivergent or care experience. So how do we find ways of reaching people, especially if systems don't represent them, whether that's inadvertently or deliberately excluding them? It's time for an uncomfortable discussion. Before we get started, it is a reminder that if you're struggling or worried about someone else, you can find details of support in the show notes or over on the website suicideprevention.scot. Right, it's time to meet our guests. So we have three fantastic guests joining us for the last episode of the What If podcast. Let me run you through who we have on this episode. We've got Mansaray, who experienced homelessness when he first arrived in Scotland from Sierra Leone in West Africa. And he joins us from Men Minds, a project at Strathclyde University aimed to increase understanding of young men's mental health and improve access to mental health research for young men who are migrants, LGBTQ+, or in conflict with the law. Mo was one of 12 men involved in a Young People's Forum, helping researchers by sharing their thoughts and experiences about masculinities, mental health, well-being, help-seeking and participating in research. Quite the intro, Mo. Lots to get into. We've also got MacLean, who is the founder of Mentor Scotland, a group based in Western Bartonshire, which offers peer-led support for adults. Jamie's early life experiences affected his mental health, which he said he masked through alcohol and recreational drug use, and at one point he even contemplated suicide. Finally, receiving an ADHD diagnosis as an adult helped him better understand himself and find a way forward. And now Jamie is using that experience to help other people, and he's even been recognised by others too, winning a Charity Manager of the Year award at the Viva Awards in Western Bartonshire. And last but not least, we have Rebecca Dawn Kennedy, who is CEO at the Equality Network and Scottish Trans, a charity that works for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and intersex equality and human rights in Scotland. And I think it's safe to say that at a time when there's been so much coverage of these issues, her perspective of the issues people are facing is crucial to help us better understand what it is like if you feel like you just don't fit in. And that is the theme of this episode, guys. What it is like if you feel like you just don't fit in, and how important our identity is when it comes to talking about mental health and suicide risk. Mo, I want to start by talking to you first of all. You arrived in Scotland. Take us back to that, what it was first like when you were trying to get settled in this new life in this new, very cold country.
First of all, I want to say thank you to you and for the invite today.
No problem.
It's just amazing, and I want to say congratulations to Jamie, because I just felt like such people being recognized in the society is something to write home about, which is fantastic. So just vividly, I want to say when I moved into Scotland, I was in an apartment, and I was moved off the apartment to a parking hotel. And some people here might know the story, what happens there, which was very, very bad. It ended with stabbing issues, which these are some of the stuff why we're here today. Someone was mentally depressed, so he decided to act, which he stabbed 6 or 7 people, if I can remember vividly. Unfortunately, I was one of the victims, so this homelessness stuff is something that is kind of bugging people out there, which can lead to loads of other stuff out there,
And it's exactly as you say, it's such a contributing factor, that feeling of that uncertainty and not having a home, not having that shelter, that security, that safety. That is so important when we're thinking about our mental health. How difficult was it for you, Mo? And did you reach out and seek any support? Were you offered any support? Did you find mental health support really difficult to come by?
So the thing that was kind of frustrating for me at that point in time, because I was staying in an apartment and I was doing okay, fine. And one morning they just tapped my door and they said, we're going to move you to a parking hotel, which means during the corona period, they said like, here is not safe for you. we're going to move you to the hotel where it's safe because of COVID. For me, at that point in time, it doesn't make any sense because I was living all alone in my apartment. How can you move me from my apartment to a hotel where there is more than 300 people and you said you want me to be safe during Corona period? It doesn't make any sense to me at that point in time. But as a young man just moving to Scotland, I don't know my right to say, no, I'm not going. So I just follow suit.
Jamie, listening and to what Mo's saying, whether you might not be able to relate exactly, but are there things that he's saying about that feeling of security and structure and having somebody effectively tap on the door and say everything's about to change for you. Your home as you know it, we're moving you, we're changing you.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges in mental health alone. I think a lot of people don't feel safe, so I can't imagine how that must have felt to have to be moved from where you're staying to another place.
Rebecca, is there, when we're thinking about the things that can increase somebody's risk of suicide and affect somebody's mental health, it's no surprise when we talk about stories like this and we talk about people's experience of something like homelessness, that of course it has an impact.
Of course, yeah. Wow, I can't believe you went through that yourself. I heard about it at the time. I know that there were some LGBTI people in the hotel at the time too, and I work with an organisation that works with New Scots, so we were following it, and to meet somebody that was there is quite something. I can only imagine how scary that was. I think safety is a really, really important thing when it comes to people's mental health, whether that's safety and security in a home, safety and security with your family, safety and security in your community, having a place to go where you feel you can switch off and be yourself and you don't have something coming at you, a threat of whether that's somebody moving you on or whether that's abusive neighbours or whatever. I think safety is absolutely paramount to well-being and to mental health. And I think when we're talking about marginalised communities, that's different to the kind of physical, tangible threat to safety. I think the difference between marginalised communities and kind of mainstream, let's say, is that often our mental health is affected by the way society treats us, as opposed to just something circumstantial. So you could lose your home, but if you're losing your home at the same time as being a refugee, at the same time as not knowing the law, at the same time as not knowing how the police would treat you, etc., it kind of adds up into a much bigger fear.
What was it that after arriving in Scotland made you think, I need to do something, I want to contribute in this way?
So after my issues, at a point in time I started recovering, and up till this day I just feel like I owe Scotland, I owe the people in my community, I owe the society a lot, because at a point in time I was thinking about a lot of stuff, mental health, depression, all this kind of stuff was in my head. I was even thinking about losing it to end it all, but there are people in the community who came by, who never knew me, who don't know where I'm from. They came by and said, what do you need? How can we help you? Because when I was moved from the hospital after being in the hospital for 10 days, because I was discharged, but I cannot go home because I don't have anywhere to stay. So I spent 10 days in the hospital before they finally have a flat for me. When I moved, the bed was having iron on it. Just imagine for someone who have been through surgery, the back and the front, they're having a good bed. The bed was very ironing, So there was a lady called Lisa. She just married at that point in time. She went home, take her brand new bed her mom bought for her. She gave the bed to me. And up till now, I have money to buy a bed, but that bed is a memory with me. I cannot lose that bed. So I'm still using the bed. So I was thinking, this woman sacrificed that bed for me at that point in time. As we all know, when they give you gifts, you cherish that. You don't want to give it to anyone, but she gave it to me. And the community people, for example, Mary Hill Integration Network, this organization, we are like all around me, make sure I get back to my feet. And there was an organization called One Community Scotland. They offer me free therapy sessions to get back to my feet. And there was a friend, he's now a brother up till now since 2020. His name is Adam. He made things easier for me to recover, So being through all this process is about people out there who are trying to make sure Scotland is a home for me, is safe for me. So even when I want to give up in life, I always think about these people. I owe these people, I owe the society, I owe Scotland. So the best way to give back to the society is to get myself into university, which I'm presently doing, studying community development, to see how best I can create an impact in the society.
Oh, it's just incredible hearing your story, and when you mention Lisa's name, and you can tell how much that experience and that memory has stuck with you. And Jamie, is there anything that's happened to you in life that it has been about that one person, and it could be that family member, friend, it could be a stranger, somebody you work with, the person who, like what Mo's saying, has been there to listen, to help, to make you feel hopeful again when you've been feeling suicidal?
I was going through a particularly tough time, and I kept on bumping into somebody who was an acquaintance of mine, and this was through a period at the end of when I was binge drinking. I would go out Thursday to Sunday just enjoying myself, but when I first started doing that, it was enjoying myself, but I didn't realise that I was masking all the problems that I'd had from my childhood. But this person kept on offering me advice just to go to the gym, and it took me a long time to take him up, but actually just taking the positive steps to go into the gym actually helped to turn my life around.
I think what both Mo and Jamie have touched on there, trying to bring it back to the idea of being different and feeling like you don't fit in, or feeling like society doesn't make space for you, which is maybe another way to look at it, is with both of the people that you've spoken about, they've seen past just the circumstance, or just the way that you look, or the hotel that you're living in, or whatever it might be, and sought to see deeper. And I think that's something that's really, really important. So for yourself, having somebody take the time to listen and understand your circumstances, where you are at and what you need, and realising what that was at that time was a comfortable bed, is really quite beautiful. And similarly with yourself, going back to what your colleague was saying about you being, a bloke and not talking about mental health, sometimes the easy way to approach that is through talking about physical activity or the gym, or getting back to the gym. And I've seen that in my own life, I'm sure we all have, where that's a comfortable space of reference for men often, is to talk about going to the gym. But what that really does is gets you side by side, it gets you moving, it gets your brain thinking in a different way, and it gets you talking to each other. And yeah, I just think it's really nice in both situations somebody's seen something.
Yeah. Because do you think when we're talking about suicide particularly, it can be that people worry about what to say. They don't know how to ask, or how somebody might feel if they ask what they see as the wrong way. And it's trying to have those initial conversations can be really difficult, but how important is it that people feel able to to open up and have those really tough, raw discussions?
It's quite sad. It's a sad state of affairs to be in, but within the LGBTI community, or the queer community, it is so common to talk about your mental health. It's so common to talk about self-harm, to talk about suicide, to talk about trauma, to talk about not fitting in, because we have long been a community that has suffered that and has not had the institutional support. So it became the community looking out for one another. And when you're used to that, it becomes almost second nature to talk about these things. Whereas other communities, whether it's culturally, whether that's a religious culturally, or from another part of the world, or for the culture around men speaking about it, it's harder for people to do, but it's absolutely vital. I mean, saying on the mug, have a conversation.
So for the Men's Mind project, which I did with Men's Mind, and that project was sponsored by UKRI, which was a fantastic project through Strathclyde University. During our research project, loads of things we find at a point in time was pickers' assumption or what they feel about you. For example, I want to go to the GP or mental health practitioner to have a conversation. They normally have the saying, I've seen people who have been through this, you too can sail through that judgmental thought, So that's why loads of young men are finding it difficult to even go to counseling sessions or to even explain their problem outside there, because they feel they will judge them, like, you're a man, you need to man up, this kind of stuff. So it keeps repeating in every individual, like we interview or have a conversation with, even we have the chance I was fortunate to be one of them to visit Palmont Prison. Loads of those young boys will not be here if they have the right people around them at the point in time, but because of the society failed them, they're there now.
It's that negative stereotype, regardless of, whatever we're talking about. There are these negative stereotypes that can be so harmful, Jamie.
Yeah.
When we're talking about mental health and suicide.
I can really feel into a lot of what Mo's saying there, because through my own experiences when I was struggling and I was having suicidal ideation, you don't know how to even approach your friends and share what's going on, and when you go to services you're then met with waiting lists. So actually when you're young, you're ruminating, myself, I was just turning to recreational drugs and alcohol. Then you would just find by the time that appointment came, it's like, well, do you know what, I'm all right now. So you're just keeping yourself in a vicious cycle. And I think that's a big challenge in Scotland, because a lot of young adults turn to recreational drugs and alcohol just as a way to, maybe it's starting out as like a young person and you're thinking you're enjoying life, but then as you get on, that can...
It can mask the pain for people, can't it? It's that they're feeling that pain, but that can be used as some way of a coping mechanism. I've seen it myself firsthand. When you were experiencing that suicidal ideation, did you speak to anyone? Did somebody spot it in you? Did anybody have that conversation and say, Jamie, are you feeling suicidal?
I think I held on to that myself. I had one-to-one conversations with my GP, but no, I held a lot of that in for a very long time until I went through this journey of healing, and then I obviously realised that I was able to open up, and as time went on and as I felt more comfortable and as I was healing and becoming better within myself, I was able to slowly start to share my message that it's okay to feel like you're not in a good spot or have suicidal ideation.
And how much did because I know your late diagnosis of ADHD, how much did that diagnosis help you make sense of things? Did it help at all, or?
I think it really did help. I went private and got my diagnosis, but there was a real having to unwind it all. It's like everything that I thought from the past, I had, right, okay, that's my journey. It maybe explained a lot, but it was a really difficult thing to be diagnosed as an adult. To then, there was also a period where I really struggled with that, but then now I'm in a much better place and it helps me to understand who I am.
Rebecca, what your work through the Equality Network, what's been your experience of first-hand people coming to you and sharing their experience or their struggles, or the fact that they are suicidal, and how hard that can be in your position to try and help people?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking when Jamie was talking, it's really amazing how much different communities could actually help one another, for sure. I mean, the rate of ADHD and neurodivergent diagnosis in the LGBT community is really high. The fact that often your cultural spaces where you can turn to is like pubs or alcohol or whatever, exactly the same for the LGBT community, because that was the only place where people were safe. So I think one thing I'll take away is we need to speak about these things because there's so many commonalities. So in terms of people coming to me speaking about suicide, because we're a policy human rights equalities organisation, we tend to hear people's lived experience to take it to those that will make decisions and make changes. And it can be really powerful, really difficult. I'm thinking of a recent situation I had, and this is quite hard hitting, so I'll prepare you. I was speaking to the Equalities Minister about the fact that a couple of bills had been dropped, including the Conversion Practices Bill, and there are stakeholders that have been working in that who have real trauma from a lifetime of conversion practices and isolation around those things, and they dropped the bill. And the effect that has on people when you do lived experience and then drop it is really, really strong. But at the same time, the Supreme Court ruling had happened, and one of the people were trans. And sorry, this is quite a long story, but it's worth it. And we were sitting with the minister, kind of holding to account a little bit about what was going on with the conversion practices bill, what is going on more broadly around LGBTI rights following the Supreme Court ruling. This was really important. And one of the survivors said, I want to read out a message from one of the other survivors, and one of her best friends who had experienced conversion practices the day after the Supreme Court ruling had taken their own life. And when you hear it delivered like that in a quite stagnant policy meeting with the Equalities Minister, it really, really hits home how much political decisions are having an effect. Certainly on my community, certainly on the migrant and refugee community. I mean, on all of us, let's be honest. But I think it's really important to bring it back to that. When you play politics with people's lives, that has a massive effect on their mental health.
That is, as you say, an absolutely stark reminder of how these policies impact people and their lives. Mo, can you relate to that at all? Just that?
Yeah, absolutely. I can relate to what she's saying. We need more education about how to handle such situation, because everything in life starts from a different perspective. Mental health starts, depression, before we even reach to the end point, which is suicide. Mm-hmm. So if we can, for example, like Men's Mind, we did a project which we did for 2 years. We give our recommendation to the Scottish Parliament to see how best they can help brought this thing back to school, so people can understand how to tackle this kind of issue before they get to the end point. So sitting here today talking about this kind of stuff, I think is a win-win situation, which means people have started to talk about it the more. And the more we talk about it, the more people understand about it, the more we cut the number down.
Absolutely. We're here talking about this feeling of, you know, when you don't fit in, if you feel like you don't have a community or a safe space or people that understand you. And it can be for a whole host of different reasons. Obviously, we've touched on some of them. Is there something, Rebecca, that we could be doing that would make an impact? Probably, I don't know if it's naive to say across the board, but regardless of whether we're talking about the LGBTQ plus community or the migrant community, or whether it's, you know, older men community, generational, that type of thing, whether we're talking about lots of different spaces, but something that would make an impact across the board.
God, I have so much to say about this. Right. So one of the things that I push really, really hard with in any area of work that I work in, but specifically when I'm speaking to the mental health director and thinking about suicides or self-harm or mental health, is that you have to put intersectionality and marginalised experience at the very core and not think of it as a kind of aside. And by intersectionality, I mean not just around protected characteristics, but also around life experiences, around risks or being in vulnerable situations. So whether that's being care experienced or having experience with drug and alcohol or whatever it might be, putting that at the very centre of any policy you make is absolutely vital. And in order to do that, you have to properly engage with stakeholders. Don't like the term, so let's say with communities. Yeah. And not just as a tick box exercise, but as a sit down, listen, halt your processes if it's not right. Take your time, really, really listen, and don't just do it as a tick box. And I have to say the mental health directorate do this well. And recognise that when people are sharing those experiences with you, they are often re-traumatising themselves. They're sharing very personal parts of themselves. And you have to treat that as it should be, with care, as a very precious thing that will allow policies to change. So those two things, don't be tokenistic and think about intersectionality. And yeah, speak to people. It's really difficult when it's about time and resource and government timetables and whatever, but I think they're not going to get it right unless everybody listens to other people and to other people's experiences.
Yeah. I can see you nodding along to that, Jamie. Do you agree that there's so many people who do have, unfortunately, some really awful lived experience, but there's so much that could be learned from that?
I just feel like for anybody that's struggling, we don't know how people are in a single day, but many people are trying to use services that are there on offer. But when they're showing up, they're maybe presenting themselves and they're probably not in a good place, but the services can't offer any help at these moments because they're irate and they're maybe presented as difficult to deal with. But in actual fact, if you just give people a little bit of time, that then and listen to them, you can help them to calm down. I just feel when I was listening, it was just really relating to a lot of stories that I hear from people that come into the group about how they're really struggling and they're trying to talk to this person and that, and they're not getting anywhere. I just feel like everybody seems to be so crushed in what's happening in the world, whether you're sitting at one side of a desk there to support somebody or the other side. I think people just need a little bit more time or compassion from services that are
And that's
on
what you
offer.
were saying, Rebecca. It doesn't matter where you're coming from in terms of that perspective. There's so much common ground.
Yeah. I think lived experience has become a buzzword, and it's often used as a bit of a commodity for people that are making policies and trying to make change. And I think when there's no proper conversation between those making policies, those who hold that commodity or have that lived experience and should be treated as equals in that, and those on the ground actually delivering the services, there's no join up between the three. So you've got kind of blue sky thinking, people who are traumatised and vulnerable who want to see change, and people who are run ragged because there's not the resources to deliver. And I think, again, with the communication across those things could get better. And that starts with public conversations and people highlighting that as a problem.
Is that something more that you think of in terms of, you obviously have that lived experience yourself, but when you are then trying to help others and make a change, can it feel like another emotional, like Rebecca was saying, re-traumatising in a way when you are opening up and talking about your own experience again, or do you always have to hold on to, I suppose, why you're trying to do that and help others?
I don't feel that much, because for me, it's not about more anymore. It's about the society out there, how I can help bring change, because I never said this before when we started. Like, my dream was to become a professional footballer. So after the stabbing, that dreams died, fade away. I don't know what to do until they help me. And then I joined this path of life, which is community development, just to make sure the society is okay, because society is in a safe space for everyone. This kind of topic is not, I'm okay, it's not my business, it's not. This is everyone need to come on board and see how best we can have a better society.
It's everyone's business.
Everyone's duty. Because if one person left out, it can affect the remaining one. And when it affects the remaining one, during that point in time, the person will be started having depression, this kind of stuff. It affects loads of people again. But here is the catch. Mental health is everywhere in the world. But it's not that much affecting Africa. You know why? Because when I arrived, like, back home, we don't talk about mental health. We don't even know what is mental health, this kind of stuff. It's not that we are daft or we don't know what is mental health. But it's because of the society we find ourselves. For example, if something is bugging me, I have a friend, I have relatives, I have extended family, we can have this conversation. There's something I've observed here. We don't have loads of friends. We don't have people to talk to. And when you are alone, that's the time, because people normally use the word, say the idle mind is the devil workshop. That's the point in time where stuff we started kicking in, where affecting mentally. You don't have someone to talk to. You are depressed all by yourself, sitting at home, drink yourself to stupors. These are the kind of stuff.
That's such a good point, Mo, isn't it? That sense of community. Do you see that through your work, Jamie? Obviously, Mentor Scotland. Do you see that there has been a shift in that sense of community, and people are more isolated, they are more lonely?
I think community is a massive problem for some people, because a lot of us can be isolated, and especially if we're struggling with our mental health in that moment, maybe you do have a circle around you, but you don't feel that you can go and speak to them. But sometimes people are totally isolated from community, and we can have up to 30 people come to our main support group, and that's for men and women 16 plus, and sometimes the guys that come along come from a place of isolation, totally struggling with their mental health, but then they're connecting with people and they're just going from conversation to conversation. And then I've seen people come in, and then within a few weeks you can just see that they're already uplifted because they've got something to look forward to and they can be part of a community. So I think it's one of the biggest things that I can agree with, especially here in Scotland, and I guess across the UK. we're so busy with work and families are so detached that we're not with our close families as much anymore. So I think community is really important.
How, Rebecca, can we reach people who do feel alone, who do feel like what the discussion was centred around today, who don't feel like they fit in, who cannot see something or someone that they identify with and they've lost hope?
I think that's a really difficult question, because I go back to this idea of intersectionality. It's really different for different people. You know, that there are people who are isolated geographically. They're isolated because they live on their own. They're isolated because they don't live near family or whatever. There's others who are isolated because of how they're feeling and the stigma of feeling poor mental health or having suicidal ideation, whatever. And then there's others who are isolated and who feel they can't reach out because of narratives that are spun about them. So I go back to what I was saying before with around specific communities, whether it's refugees and asylum seekers, disabled people, LGBTI people, more specifically trans people right now, reaching out or leaving the house or going to a social space or joining a club or whatever it might be is becoming harder and harder, more of an impossibility. And for some it's terrifying. You know, hate crime is on the rise. Bigotry is on the rise. The kind of free pass people seem to think they have now to say things, do things that are abhorrent towards minority communities, that is isolating in and of itself. So it's a huge question. How do you reach those people? I think partly it's about reaching out to those people, but in the sense of prejudice, it's about reaching out to each other and having conversations around acceptance and around how people should have the freedom to be who they are and live life and be out in the streets, be out in public, have access to their public and cultural lives, be able to go to spaces, hang out with people without fear, and to be able to be open about who they are, what they're experiencing is a start before you can then talk about, oh, actually I'm feeling suicidal, or I need help, or I need support.
Mo, what do you think every one of us could do?
So everyone needs to come on board and see how best we can bring change to the society. I keep using this word change a lot. For example, Jamie said like there are loads of people coming to the space which he provides. That means they feel safe and welcome. That's why they're going there. So back to where like Mary Integration Airport Jocks, for example, there are loads of people who attend there, but majority of them are asylum seekers and refugees. They attend there or they go there because they feel like this is their space. They feel safe and welcome. So if we have loads of space, not what I mean space, not like coming here in this room, no, the space outside, like people can feel safe and welcome, I think we'll have an amazing society within a twinkle of an eye.
Jamie, what would you want someone to take from your experience? The fact that you have been there, you have felt suicidal, but you're now doing so much to try and help those who felt the same. What would you want them to take from your experience?
There is people out there that care, and it is okay to open up and speak about what's going on. And there is safe places. There's lots of different organisations that really care, and there's people that are there to support you. I think it's took me probably through a lot of the campaigns that are going on through Suicide Prevention Scotland to really open me up, and even through the work that I'm doing, that it's okay to say that I'm feeling suicidal, and it is okay actually to ask that question, because we can take that pressure away from somebody, and that is giving them that safety to be able to go, do you know what, and really let go of it.
Rebecca, I mean, we've sat here today, but I'm sure you agree we could speak for a lot longer. What would you want someone to take away who's perhaps watching this and is struggling themselves and can't perhaps see a way out, or doesn't feel like they can identify with someone else, or they just feel pretty alone? What would you say to someone?
I think when people are in that place, the best thing they can do, and I wish everybody the strength to do it, is to reach out to somebody, anybody. And that's not an easy ask. It seems really simple. But to do it even if you're scared, to do it even if you're unsure, to do it even if you don't know what you're going to say, to do it if you don't even know how you're feeling, because it starts the conversation. That maybe sounds a bit cheesy, but I think that's probably the most important thing somebody can do. And similarly, on the flip side, if you feel that somebody is not okay, if you feel like somebody is isolated, even if it's awkward as hell and you don't know what you're saying and you don't know what you're going to ask and you don't know how to go about it, just start with, are you okay? And go from there. And yeah, as you're saying, it's really important. If you think somebody might be feeling suicidal, straight up ask them.
And know that you're not going to put the idea in their head, or
No,
you're not, all these
not at
fears
all.
that people have had, haven't they? That talking about suicide, this fear that, oh gosh, what if they then think about it? What if I'm going to plant the seed somehow? It's the complete opposite.
Yeah, I think people are, when they're there, they desperately need somebody to see them.
Mm-hmm.
And if you ask that question, it may be shocking or whatever, but it shows somebody that you see them and you see them struggling. And yeah, even if it's messy, it starts a conversation.
Yeah. I've actually used that question quite a lot, and I've never had a bad reaction. And not everybody is feeling suicidal when you ask them if they're suicidal, but they know that you're asking from a place of care. So I think to be able to just openly ask that question can really help somebody in that moment.
Well, I really do. Thank you so much. I appreciate the three of you giving us your time. Mo, Rebecca, Jamie, really appreciate it. You've given us so much to think about. Thank you. Thanks to Mo, Jamie and Rebecca for joining us. It was so great to have you with us for this episode. Now, please remember that if you're worried about yourself or someone else, support is available. You can find details in the show notes or visit the website suicideprevention.scot. That's also where you can get all the latest news from Suicide Prevention Scotland and the community of people and organisations who work together to deliver the Scottish Government and COSLA's joint strategy, Creating Hope Together. With that, can't believe I'm saying this, we are at the end of this series. We've had some incredibly powerful conversations, but if there's one thing we'd want you to take away, it's this. If you're worried about someone, please ask. They might not be able to ask for help. They might not even realise they're in trouble. Opening the door for a conversation won't cause harm. Indeed, you might just save their life. And if you're struggling, I want you to know you're not alone. Support is available. But from someone who's been there, tomorrow can be a better day and you can get there. Reach out. There are so many people that care about you. Thank you so much for joining us and take care of yourself.